Right, so like I say, morning, thank you very much, guys. You suckers. What are you doing back here for more stats? But hopefully we can get something out of it. Same sort of procedures what we did last year. We'll have a look at some of the stuff that's been caused before landing and stuff that's happened on landing. We'll have a quick chat about some of all those, okay? So as I can only work with the details that come through, so it's a review of 2015 to 2018, so trying to build up and try and look at any trends that we can find. It's the overall picture. It's based on the submitted forms, which I get. They're redacted, so I don't know the drop zones. I don't know anybody's names on there. I only get it was a bag lock on such and such a date, what the wind, the temperature, and everything like that. So it's confidential data. And I don't have a breakdown of how many tandems were done at specific drop zones on specific canopies, okay? So when we come through, so it is quite difficult to try and build up a picture of it, but I'm trying to build it up from year by year, so at least we can get some form of comparison. Obviously, not all near-miss data is presented to people, presented as an incident, okay? I know that we're all chief instructors are all guilty of that. We don't put every piece of paper in, sort of thing. We need to do a little bit more, and we can talk about that later on. And also, it's down on my interpretation, sort of thing. So I have to look at it. A lot of people don't know how to describe what's happened to them, so then I have to try and classify it down, sort of thing. So, and we'll see how that happens later on. So, incident reports from non-canopy based ones, okay? Going back through, so these are what we had over the last few years. So 2015, 55 miles. We had a few different things happen. The top up came off a checkout jump doing a back layout. We had a premature reserve deployment on the next system, which brought out the safety notice on those. We had a couple of maintenance issues, which were broken lines and a broken kill line and one drogue around student. The next year, one side spin, through maintenance again was a couple of broken lines, a drogue around student, one drogue not inflated, which was out of sequence, okay, and one out of sequence on the course, on the BPA course. Last year, 68 miles, so the numbers went up, so our rate went down, and the number of jumps has gone down as well. A few different things last year. One side spin, now I'm pretty sure that not every side spin is getting reported. I know that sort of thing. I'll be honest, I forgot to put one in from one of our guys, sort of thing. So we know that it's happening more, but these are things which are not necessarily becoming malfunctions, but they've been reported depending on the severity of it. So again, we need to look at that. One main bag out, one broken steering line. I mean, the main bag out was on the new container system with a central lift point, and somehow the pin released before it was supposed to have gone. Broken lines, damaged canopy, one drogue not thrown, 4 drogues not inflated, which is a big rise in the previous years, and 2 out of sequence. Okay, and this is where we had the discussion last year about making sure people do their drills and the importance of doing those drills every 2 months and doing the drills properly, not just taking the importance away from it. So this year, 73 reports have gone in. Not all those reports caused malfunction, reserve deployments, reserve activations, but our rate has gone up because the number of jumps has gone down, with 52, just over 52,000 total been doing for the UK. So non-canopy related issues. One bag lost on a BPA tandem course. Least said about that, the better. Okay. One side spin.
Still not found it.
Still not found it, yeah. Hopefully it's not in a John Deere tractor. One side spin on the course, which the guy went around about 6 times, but then rectified it and dealt with it. One drogue not inflated, and 2 drogue entanglements wrapped around people. These cleared, they didn't cause reserve activations. And this is a photo of one of them. This one was dealt with after 8 seconds. The normal procedure, the main was pulled, slower opening main, and there was no issues with it. And this is why it's very important that the drills are done properly. Okay. And then we had one drogue thrown through the flag bag on a demo team that was being done, which caused quite a nasty entanglement with it. but that was dealt with, and these did cause reserve deployments. One student reaching back pulled the reserve handle and dumped the instructor out, which is always nice of them when they're trying to pick their legs up, isn't it? One bag lock, one drogue didn't lift the bag. Okay, the curl line was thought to be too short. Okay, and there is details out there about how to calibrate the drogues, particularly on the Sigma system. If you're not sure, then ask us, we can help you with that. One total, which was a twisted riser, a mini riser, on the drogue release on the next system. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then one out of sequence, one no drogue. Okay, which again caused a reserve deployment. Okay, and we have to really think. I mean, we haven't had any issues with the reserve deployments in the UK. Nobody got hurt landing a reserve, but it isn't that silver handle sort of thing. We've seen from the last few years where there's been, I think, 3 or 4 drogue reserve entanglements, okay, that it isn't that get out of jail card free, okay, when the drogue's up behind you. And we do need to be careful about what we're doing. We've been very fortunate in this country. It's been 27 years since the last tandem fatality in the UK, the only tandem fatality in the UK, but we have had some issues. So we need to be aware about that. If we can deal with these, then we're not having the reserve deployments. Okay, we'll reduce that risk to us. And this is one of the situations which I was given the video. The guys allowed us to use it for training. Ooh. Yeah. Okay, so yeah. So it can go right, it can go wrong, and I bet you there's been several more like that which just haven't been reported. Okay, and that luck's going to run out of people being entangled in it. Okay. I'm not here to put blame on anything, to discuss stuff with people. If people want to discuss it later, they can. But it's not throwing the drogue, man. Okay, we're not committed to throwing it until we started to pull it. We shouldn't be pulling the drogue until we're flying the position. Okay. So the burble's wicked, absolutely wicked when it does go into the burble and it comes back down again. I'm pretty sure. There you go. Now, if you'd put this video on at this point and said, place your bets, was it going to clear? You probably wouldn't have thought it was going to clear. Then we've got a reserve deployment upside down, more lines coming past us and everything. Okay? So, yeah. It's out there, guys. We need to be careful. It is happening. Okay? Just because people aren't getting killed doesn't mean the stuff isn't happening out there. So, we just need to be aware of it. Okay? We need to think about it, and we need to work with our own instructors back at our own drop zone. Okay. Any questions on any of that so far? By the oh, nice of you to join us. Yes?
Just very quickly, so the numbers of incidents, is that because we're having more problems, or is it because we're reporting more?
I'd like to ask that question again. The numbers that are going up in incident terms, is that because we're having more incidents, or is it because we're getting better at reporting them?
When I look at the reports, there is more stuff which is near miss, like some of like potentially the drogue entanglement, the one which did clear, may not have been reported in the past. And I think if we can have a more open, no blame culture, then hopefully more will be presented. But unfortunately, with the way that we've got it, that an incident is anything which didn't go to plan, that's everything. That's somebody tripping up a ladder, falling into a caravan and bruising a knee, you know, to somebody having a main reserve entanglement. It covers everything. So that's a difficulty where people, I think, are still worried about putting incident reports in for minor things. And people, to me, it does kind of screw up all your numbers. It does make you look a lot worse, and we'll have a look at that later. But I think I take out some of that stuff. So when I've looked at my rates for malfunctions, I've removed the non-reserve activations. So I think we are reporting more, but we're not reporting everything. I know that from our own thing. It's kind of like, you know, if a guy's gone on his side, gone around once, is that a side spin? Yeah, it is. The guy's thrown a drogue and it's recovered. Hey, happy days. Nobody's got hurt. Nothing's happened. Has it been reported? No. You know, the number of people who've had drogues brush their feet and stuff like that. And it does, you know, and I'm not saying stuff isn't getting discussed back at the centre, because I don't think, we're quite lucky at our place. I think people come in, we'll have a chat sort of thing, we'll have a look at the videos and we'll see what we can do. But I don't think that's all getting reported. So I don't think the rate of incidents is going up. I think it's just better reporting.
No, just a quick one, mate. On those with the ones with the no drogue thrown and then the outer sequence, did they pull the reserve or did the AAD fire?
They all pulled the reserve. There's been no AAD activations on, as far as I'm aware, on tandem equipment, and there hasn't been in those 4 years which I've got there. Okay. So we're going back. Look, this is now Canopy-related issues, and the pack inside I wanted to go through with people. So going back, we've had brakes. People put brake lock. They don't report stuff. I don't know if it's trapped around the ring, if it's a brake fire or something. But there's issues which relating to brakes every single year. Okay, and then people will say the canopy was distorted. Okay, and then people will say it's tension knots. So a distorted canopy is where it's been specifically said it's a line over, in my interpretation of this. Okay, everything else is spinning. You know, I get lots of spinning canopies. I don't know what's caused it. Could have been a line over, could have been tension knot, could have been a brake fire. It's very difficult for us to do that. And I'm not expecting people to stay underneath something to say, all right, I need to know what this is so I can report it to Noel better. But it's very, very difficult from the data which we've got. And then we have the twists factor. So going back through the years, what I've done is I've calculated that 69% packing is the issues caused with brakes, distorted canopies, be it line overs, and the tension knots. It doesn't include the twists in there, okay? Because I know next door the riggers will all be blaming our body position for the twists. And when I'm going to go and speak to the riggers later on, I'm going to be blaming them for all the twists for their pat jobs. So, yeah, we'll have a look at how it actually pans out in a moment. Again, brakes quite commonly caused from people having catchers trying to turn the canopies inside out. The brake lines, you know, secondary's going around the guide ring, or the main's going around the guide ring, and then the brakes are locked on. We can't get them off. Okay. It doesn't show. I don't know how many of those have been cleared by instructors. I've had it before. We've probably all had it. Think, oh, right, okay, and you can deal with it. Again, near misses not being reported. Tension knots and twists. Last year when I looked at it, one stiff pull, 8 were brakes last year. You'll have to excuse me, I'm getting old, guys. Last year, yeah, 1 stiff pull on the course. The one was unable to throw the drogue due to a difficult student. And the so on the canopies last year, 13 distorted canopies. There was a mixture of a couple on A2 370s, one on a 389, one on an Easy 384, one on a Hop, 2 on an Icarus, 1 on a Set 400, and 3 on a 370. So it was a broad range. I couldn't say it was one particular canopy which was getting that. Tension knots, though, last year when we looked at it, there was the A2 had 3, Sigma 373, 343, Precision 365 1, Icarus 1, Set 1, Hop 11. Okay, so pretty well the Hop had the tension knots and didn't get to the distorted stage. People were chopping it before, sort of thing. With the twists last year, they had the 372 had 2, Sigma 370 was 2, Precision 365 1, Hop 1, because like I say, normally they'd it had been tension knots before it even got to twisting up, and the Icarus was 3. So again, it was a broad range, and like I say, I haven't got the numbers done on 340s in total across the country, Icarus across the country, so it's very difficult to say. I think there's a broad range of candidates that have been used across the country, you know, so again, it's very, very difficult, but it was 66% was caused by packing, things which could have been dealt with if the brakes had been set properly, if the tensions, you know, if the twists had been taken out of the brake lines, we would have had less tension knots. And last year, you know, last year was a lot of tension knots. So this year, 68 miles, there's 73 reports, okay? But we had fewer jumps, so obviously our rate goes up, sort of thing. So I don't actually think that's bad that the rate's going up. It's because more's been reported. We have to look at it if we get any information. However, to the outside world, it makes it look like we're less safe. I don't think that. It's because we're getting more reports, we're getting stuff through. So this is what we had. This is what we had this year. One damaged canopy, ripped. That canopy only had 790 jumps on it. Okay. 7 brake issues. Okay. Brake fire, brakes trapped on. There was one brake fire which caused a mal, and there were 6 others which were brakes trapped on. One brake line which they didn't know what the issue was, but it was uncontrollable. So more than likely it was a tension knot caused by it, but it was attributed to the brake lines. 3 streamers, all on A2s, okay, which were sent back to the manufacturer. So I'm not sure if their line trims got changed or not. 10 distorted line overs, explicitly. And there, again, that was a broad range. That was 1 on an A2, 2 on an Easy, 2 on a Hop, 1 on a Sigma, 2 on a Sigma 340, 1 on a 370, Sigma 370, and 1 on a Twin. So again, there's a broad range of line overs. So man, that's a packing issue sort of thing which we need to be looking at. With the distorted canopies, 19 tension knots reported. Okay, so tension knots come down a little bit, but we have this issue that there's 6 unknown. Okay, so the mals have been reported, but the guys don't know what's happening. So this 6 could actually massively screw up all my data. Okay, this is what I've got reported, and I've got 6 unknown. So it's very, very difficult to actually pinpoint everything. But in terms of the distorted canopies, it was a 3 on a 370, 1 on a 366, set 366, 5 on a Sigma 340, 1 on a 370, 1 on a TX2, 1 on a 365, and 7 on the Hop. So the ones on the Hops come down. So you never know. But I don't know what these ones were on these canopies. Okay, so again, it's pretty difficult. But I think it's still fair to say your tension knot risk is higher on a Hop than it is on an Icarus. And on an Icarus, the twists cause more of an issues than tension knots. So just you need to be aware of that on the equipment that you're jumping, particularly if you go and change and go jump a different centre. You need to be aware of what's going on and make your packers aware. Like I say, with 6 unknown, 1 was caused by poor body position through deployment, which I don't know if it caused a distorted canopy or a line over. The details weren't on there, okay. But if people are attributing it to the body position, it means that we should be thinking about what we're doing at deployment. So it's good that people are actually not blaming just the packers, they're actually looking at themselves and saying that it was caused by them, which I think is good that people are being honest about it. So those caused by packing, 76% of the mals. So if we can deal with the packing, if you work with the packers, you stand a much lower chance of having a malfunction. And we all know, I don't need to talk to you guys, but you know, it's a lot of money if you chop it, okay, and you lose it. It's a lot of money. It's kit offline. You know, if you've only got 3 kits, 3 instructors, and you chop it, well, one of you is not working. So it's in your own interest. And I think that we're spending so much time away from the packers now that we have our dedicated teams of packers, that the instructors don't have as much input as we used to be able to get. And they're not. Most of them are not jumping it. They don't care. It's the money they want, sort of thing. It's us that have got to deal with it. So if we can reduce the number of issues, and what we don't also have is the number of twists that have been caused total, because we don't report that. Nobody reports, oh, I had twists and cleared it. So again, I don't know the details, so maybe we need to start looking at some of that at our own centres if we can get more information and start thinking about it and looking at our own problems within our own drop zone. Any questions? So go back, have a word with your packers. So if we include twists, because we blame them, they blame us, it's actually 92% of it's caused by packing. 92% of the mals are caused by packing errors, okay, and packing issues. So I think we need to go back. We need to go back and look at it. Slightly juggler. So considerations. Bungees. That's a nice line dump that we're going to get there. Okay. All right. It's quite pretty, that, isn't it? But we're going to get, potential line dump. So if your bungees are too loose, they're not good enough. Higher risk of tension knots. Higher risk of twist, uneven deployment, major problems. Bungees too tight, and we end up with issues like that. That was me. It was a few years ago. I didn't really watch it that much afterwards because I didn't really like the idea of my main going that close to my reserve when it went out. And what had happened was the packer had doubled the first tandem bungee to be released. So it was bag locked and it was right down my back. You can see there that the risers are still right in the channel. There wasn't enough to lift it far enough out for me to even be able to grab the risers. I'll be honest on that one, when I cut away, I was like, well, that should have gone. I thought I hadn't cut away. So I ripped the handle round, whipped myself in the face with it because I was like, okay, this is wrong. And I went to my reserve as per the drills. Could I clear the risers? It was a brand new Next kit. You can see that it's tucked right in and that the risers are all the way back. I wouldn't have been able to do it by pulling on the risers. I would have had to have opened the riser tabs, and they're very tight on a brand new container, which is well fitted. So, we need to be careful. It's out there, and that's caused issues with other people, and obviously I was lucky I got away with it, but it was pretty close to my reserve as it's deploying. And we landed fine, and we got everything back, but it was a little bit too close for my liking. So I have a big thing with our guys with the bungees. If it's not right, change them. If we miss the lift, I don't care.
Were the bungees not or tube stows?
Bungees. Don't use tube stows. They were all bungees, and it just is the first one, and he just doubled it because he was rushing and wanted the money. Yes, Ryan.
Do you think that's something people could practice? Do you think that's something people could practice during their drills? Instead of grabbing the risers to clear them, actually just releasing the tabs. Obviously not practicing it in the air because it's going to disturb your opening, but just literally grabbing the tabs, if it's a Next or if it's a Sigma, the magnets, and opening them, just to get the feel of where that is.
I've tried, and it's difficult.
Okay.
And that's not in the stressful environment of going through. And that cameraman, he's not the smallest cameraman, and he had his wings in, and we can see how I'm just away from him. So I'd wasted enough time on it. Whether I should have done it, I don't know, because I was initially trained on clear risers on Vector system, but that was with Velcro.
Yep.
And stuff on the top. So there's a lot to be said for that. And doing it again in freefall, I have done it. I have pulled them out because we use Next, so I'm not going to have a break fire if it does start to pop out. It's very, very difficult to do.
On a Sigma, it's really easy to do, but I've not tried to do that on a Next. Yeah.
So it's just, obviously you've got the magnet, so even if you ran your thumbs up, there's a good chance it's going to clear. So, okay. And then we've had a couple of other issues. One was the serious incidents, just to discuss. I don't want to get into the pros and cons of exactly what should have happened to the person. This is information that's been given to me. This is by the person involved. Allowed me to talk about it, which is very good of them. This is the drogue in tow where the mini riser had a twisted thing. Now, it's very obvious there, okay, because we're looking at it. Okay, inside the container. After I heard about this, I went straight back in the next day because obviously we got a lot of Next kit. I rigged it up, looked at it, and it's very, very difficult to see. It's very easy when you know that you're looking for it. Okay, and the guy who this happened to, one of his things, he said he did check it. He did look, obviously didn't check it. He didn't realise that was a potential that could happen. Now we know on our free rings on our shoulders that you can get a geometric lock. Everybody knows that. All right, so everybody looks for the geometric lock. Okay. A lot of people don't know about the potential of the, the length of the closing, the Type 2A closing loop that's used on a riser. You guys wouldn't know about that length, whether it's right or not. If I told you in the future, you would then go and check it, wouldn't you? You'd think about it. So it's one of those, this isn't, the unknown knowns, the known unknown sort of thing. We don't know everything, but we need to know about our kit. And we need to be aware of it, and we need not to be rushed. And we need to check it properly. And it's very easy for every instructor to say, oh, I wouldn't miss that, I wouldn't miss that. But if I jerry-rigged up half a dozen and didn't tell anybody, but a lot of people would miss it. Okay, so make sure you make that time. And the big issue with this was packed by somebody who'd only recently converted from Sigma to next packing. So, you need to know what your packers are doing, how current they are, what they're up to. And we think that was one of the issues. So, but again, you're putting a reserve up next to a drogue. And with this, I went back, like I say, I was worried about it because I was like, oh, if that can happen, let me just see, because it all sounded a bit wrong. Jungle drums, I think before the ink was dry on the 118 that we'd all heard everywhere sort of thing. So I went back in the next day, rigged it up, and I could pick it up and swing the container around by the drogue. It's quite scary, really. Yet when you put it down and take tension off it, pop, off it comes. Okay, so we need to be aware of stuff. So there's a lot more there in all our kit, whatever system that you're using, okay, which we don't know about. We need to be looking and we need to be checking. Don't be complacent with that flight line kit check because it's come from a tag and it's come from a packer who should have checked it. And yourselves, we had an issue where a guy packed a rig, didn't even connect it up properly. He'd packed it, so as he jumped through the drogue, had an instant canopy. Okay, so if you pack it, when you take it outside, treat it as if it's been done by somebody else, and never get caught out. Don't compromise your own safety for not checking that on the next. See, there was an outer sequence which didn't have a drogue. Be that complacency, that wasn't in somebody who was on current. Okay, so we need to be aware of that. Everybody needs to be thinking it was an unstable exit, which they say put them off. So we need to think about it. We can't get complacent. Complacency will kill. Okay, and then the other major incident this year was an AAD found in the aircraft not on, which had been checked online. That cost the guy his rating. So we need to be careful, we need to check. Again, with the AADs, people are looking, it's more, we're so used to seeing the zero or the student in the window, aren't we? We look for it. If it's not, we're not checking that you've got an AAD, we're checking that it's on. We need to take the time to stop and check it properly. Okay, all right. And just be aware of that, make sure you've got procedures and processes for that so that it's not done, not missed, okay? Moving through to the injuries. 7 dislocations in 2015, all previously declared, but admitted to afterwards, but not declared on the form. 2016, 5 dislocations, again, none of this was new. Okay. 2017, 5 dislocations, again, all new. So 2018, 45 injuries. So there's a big reduction in the injuries reported, which is really, really good. In fewer jumps, dislocations, higher, lower? 7. Okay, 6 shoulders, 1 ankle. Okay, yeah, in free fall, dislocated an ankle in free fall. I don't know how the hell they managed to do that. It wasn't on landing, it was in free fall as it's reported. I think that would have been pretty painful. Okay, so, yeah, these are students. Yeah, this is all students. These are all. And all these injuries, I've had a problem before. They've not filled the paperwork in properly. Okay. Now, that comes down to, it's worth you guys on flight line checking, asking your student, just because they've come out, they've signed the paperwork, it's always in your interest, is there any medical issues I need to know? Have you had any dislocations or anything? Now, we know we can take people who've had a partial dislocation by keeping their arms in. We can analyse the risk, and we can jump them. We've all done that. Okay, but if we don't ask the question, we don't have that information. Okay, so these probably all could have been avoided if the people had been honest. Okay, so non-landing specific, we had 2 on opening, 1 fractured wrist on opening, and 1 bruising due to the harness. Bruising, One was due to fragile skin. This was shoelace laceration. Okay, shoelace came undone and cut the guy. He was 100 years old, so his skin's going to be like paper. All right, so I need to just be aware of that. Anything that's loose is going to, if it will flap about, it will cause problems. One was bruising, a welt caused by the zip on the jumpsuit in the summer, and one was bruising from the harness. They didn't say it was on opening, so again, you know, it comes down to your harness fitting potentially. 6 dislocated shoulders, 1 ankle in free fall. We talked about that. 9 people passing out under Canopy. That's up on the previous year where there were only 6. But this is again people reporting things. None of these guys got injured on landing. They were all landed okay, but the numbers going up. So again, that doesn't help our stats sort of thing. But it's good that people are reporting everything. So it shows that it's good that people are reporting things. With the fainting, one of them was in April, very high BMI, 34.5, quite a big person. 5 of them were male and 4 female. You know, because when I have a look at it, I place my bets sort of thing. You know, the problem I've had with fainting people is we've had really larger ladies who haven't eaten anything because they've been worried about being sick. Drops their blood sugar and they pass out on you. But it was actually 5 male, 4 female. 6 of them were in the summer. Okay, all in the early afternoon. Okay, so that's people not having breakfast and being dehydrated. Okay, so that's something we can have a look at it. 4 of them were obese and 1 was diabetic. So we need to, we can have a look at that. You know, there's no issue with taking diabetic people as long as it's controlled and we can deal with it. And you can analyse it and we need to check that they're okay in the aeroplane before we jump. We can be in the plane, make sure that they're suitable for jumping, that they're fit for jumping. Because obviously you don't want to expose them to that risk. 3 of them were post-jump injuries. 1 fainted after the jump, again probably down to dehydrating, that was quite a high BMI as well. 1 had a headache, again put down to dehydration in the summer, and 1 had some numbness, which was the harness fitting. Again, they complained about it afterwards, but it was reported, so that's good. But there's probably a damn sight more afterwards. You know, people go home, you know, we've all had the phone call, oh, my ears are still hurting. You know, we don't report that. There's not a single ear issue reported yet. We get a lot of ear issues sort of thing, you know. So we don't know afterwards. We don't know about the bruised coccyx sort of thing from the landing. You know, next morning, oh, they're a bit stiff or a bit sore. It doesn't get reported. I know that, but we still get, we get these reports done, so. So landing specific, 2015, 9 injuries to instructors, 47 to students. We'll work through these. So 12 fractures, 65% of the people were overweight involved. People, where it says instructor cause, that's where on there it definitely says the instructor's poor flare, poor landing or something like that, where people have been honest, admitted to it. 27 caused by students, this is where it says legs dropped, which is the get out of cause sort of thing, you know, the instructor they'll have a bad landing, but they always say, oh, the student dropped their legs. 12 fractures, 74% overweight, 67% overweight, okay. So, 45 injuries, 4 to instructors, 41 to students. So, you know, a reduction in the number of injuries reported to students. 2 were instructor caused. 27 was alleged down to student cause. I can definitely identify. We're still getting a high number of fractures. The fractures are still high. 10 is still a high number of fractures. Okay, guys. With the fractures, 4 fractured legs all reaching for the ground, 2 were ankles dropping legs, 1 was a canopy still turning, so that's caused by the instructor. You know, the canopy wasn't flat and level. If the canopy's still turning, it's losing height. Okay, so that's an instructor caused one. 1 was a fractured back. The TI did not pick up the secondary toggles. They'd done 120 jumps in the 120 tandems, 30 in the previous 3 months. So, depending on how your thought on currency, they weren't uncurrent, but did they get out of kilter? Was that, you know, had the previous 119 all gone correctly, and it's the one that goes wrong? You know, it's that working in what's your normal picture type thing. And 1 was a low term, which was a fractured back. 268 tandems done by the instructor in the previous 6 months. Okay, since he got his rating. A windy day. I've had some details from it. He's actually away, but he shared the information with somebody who's given me the information. So it is a third hand, but it's from a trusted source, as I would say. And he basically got out of shape in the stack. found himself out lining. It was a windy day, found himself out, and he tried to rectify his position in the stack by turning low to lose altitude, to get ahead of somebody, and didn't finish the turn and fractured back. Okay. So, obviously the instructor ones, it's irrelevant the way to the student generally, okay, because it's the student who's not pulled on the yonkles and stopped the landing, okay. But 79% of the people involved were overweight, okay. 30% of the instructors were overweight. Because when we went through this last year, we had heavy landings, twists, bruising, fractures. It was 10 out of 11 instructors were overweight, so I didn't know whether that was a massive contributing factor. Okay, this year it's only 3 out of 10 who are overweight, but it's still an issue. Okay, and
No, what do you class as overweight?
this is going off the.
I'm
I have got the answer this year for you. It's a very, very good point. Okay, we'll get to it. Yeah. I'm underweight. By my BMI, I fiddled it. But last year the issues that we had, we had things like a drop toggle, a pull flare. Now these guys got away with it. They didn't result in fractures. Okay, 2 hard landings caused by the instructor. Okay, ended up in fractures. It broke 2 broken legs last year, but it is people who are overweight. Okay, and it wasn't people who are over 50. So it shows it's the instructor who are causing it. But the issue last year, I thought a big issue was the overweight instructors. But it does kind of make sense that if you are going to trip up and land on somebody, if you are 7 stone, you are less likely to do damage than if you're 17 stone 6. Okay, but I didn't know whether that was a major issue. So going back and looking through this year, heavy landings, we had 3 which were injuries to the students. 1 felt a jolt on landing. Well, that's probably a poor flare, it's probably a poor landing. It was a back issue. 1 bruised backside, which was caused by turbulence in 19 knots. It says it was down as a standing landing. So I can only conjecture that the catchers have either missed them, have taken 3 steps back and landed on the backside. So we need to be thinking, if it is windy, sit the landing down. 66% of those were overweight, only 1 in light winds. The twisted and sprains, 1 was to an instructor, 3 to students. Okay, dropping feet, only 50% female. These all happen on sliding landings. Okay. 25% overweight, so it can happen with people dropping legs. And all of them are in light winds. So it's for sliding landings, people just not picking their legs up. So we need to make sure people pick their legs up. The 1 was an instructor caught his foot in the divot. Okay, sliding and landing in. So that's how that instructor got hurt. 2 bruising to TIs. Oh, sorry, that was right. 1 TI was injured from the student when they fell on them. 1 dropped leg. 1 grazed arm. Okay, the jumpsuit rode up, so I don't know what kind of landing they were doing, but yeah, we just need to be aware of that. And 1 was a wrist, which was an older person who put their hand down on landing and twisted their wrist. So I got bruising from their wrist, sort of thing. All right, 50% of these guys were overweight. Again, most of these were in light winds. Okay, so we just need to be careful, making sure our students can pick our legs up. The 10 fractures all happened to students this year, not to instructors, because there was 1 instructor hurt last year. 1 was no secondaries picked up, like I say. 1 was a low turn, Canopy still turning, low turn. 7 attributed to the students, all dropping legs. So, on these, 80% were overweight. Okay, the students, 75% of these were in low winds. All happened on sliding landings this year. But only 3 of 10 of the instructors were overweight. Okay, so it's not heavy instructors landing on them, hurting them, sort of thing this year. So we just need to be aware of that, but we just need to be mega careful on our sliding landings. I'm not saying I do a lot of standard landings, I do a lot of sliding landings. I'm not saying that the sliding landing is dangerous, but these incidents have all happened on sliding landings. So we just need to be acutely aware of what our students are capable of. Okay, so the BMI thing, I get the question every year. So this is the national average, okay, broken down into, it's 2017, into age groups and male and female. And it kind of says that we are all overweight as an average. On average, we're all overweight, okay, according to this. So I wanted to see whether that applied to our own students, because this is the one thing, if we're jumping heavier students, then we're more likely to hurt heavier students. So I looked at the ones from Hibblestow. I managed to get everybody's height and weight. Okay, we calculated the BMI, and this is the total. This is male and female. So from where we class as overweight, a lot of our guys are less than that. It's not like it's skewed one way or another. And looking at so the red is female, blue is male. I was wondering whether we were jumping more heavy women or not. We're jumping more heavy men.
Muscles heavier.
Muscles heavier.
BMI.
And a Big Mac's bigger than a cheeseburger. Yeah, we have to be, yeah, exactly. So it's not, but what it did give me was when I looked at it, what our breakdown of what our students were sort of thing. So for men, you know, like half of them are what we class as normal, quarter of them are overweight, and then we've got very overweight and obese. So if it was heavier students getting hurt, I would have expected this to have been skewed more this way, and it's not. So I think we are hurting more heavy people. Now that is my interpretation of the data. Now I've looked at it, we need to get a proper statistician on it, okay? But which I really think it'd be worth the BPA paying somebody to do. All right. All right, and again with the women, most of them are what we class as normal weight. Well, just less than 2/3 are normal weight. So it's not more heavy people. Okay, so that I think we can kind of justify saying that if you're overweight, you stand a higher risk of getting. You know, it backs up that idea of people getting hurt. With the instructors, I don't know. I need to have a look at it because I don't have every instructor's BMI and their weight, and I know that it's not a perfect, but it just gives us a guide. Okay, so how do we compare against other countries? I'm in touch with the NZPIA and the APF, so hi Kim and hi Jennifer. Last year when I moaned about them and their reporting system, so they've been really nice and kind and sent me the data again, but it's really, really difficult to exactly do it. The APF put their data out in June for the previous year, so I've only got the previous years, as it were. Going back when we looked at it the other year, so 2016 in comparison, our risk wasn't far off for the MALS, wasn't far off for the APF, and our injury rate was still 3 times higher than the APF. 2017, our risk of MALS was twice as high, we've gone up. Okay, and our risk of injury is a lot higher than both countries. Now, the APF, when I speak to them, they are supposed to report everything like us. That includes bruising, minor cuts, minor injuries, everything, okay? The NZPIA, they are supposed to, but I don't know if everything is. I'm not casting aspersions on anybody's reporting system. I feel that the APF one is probably closer to ours and is a little bit more indicative, matches closer to ours and gives us a realistic thing. So, because the NZPIA, well, with the MALS, risk is twice as high in the UK. The injuries is 10 times higher. That's based on last year. Now, I won't have the APF one until this year. And obviously, the APF lost 2 tandems last year as well. Okay, so that doesn't make ours right because other people are getting killed. But it just shows that the instance, you know, we need to look at what we're doing. You know, we think we're doing okay, and the numbers have gone down. We're still hurting a lot of people. Yep.
So we mentioned earlier about dislocated shoulders. If you have someone who said, yeah, I've had previous dislocation, yeah, they can hold on to the harness, and that's going to dramatically reduce the chances of that being dislocated. But on our medical paperwork, if they've come in with a self-declaration,
yeah, we need to, yeah,
they have to have the doctors, and the same for any fracture as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So maybe we need to look at that and see, but you can't force somebody to sign something. So yeah, they should have the medical.
Okay.
No, doesn't matter. Looking at the figures you've got on there, as an organisation, have we spoken to the NZPIA and the APF on why their stats are considerably better than ours?
Don't know.
Well, we should.
Ask Jeffrey.
Do it, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Just one thing, is there any correlation in between the amount of people getting hurt or malfunctions and the time of year, i.e. lack of currency?
It's slightly higher at the beginning of the year, slightly higher at the beginning of the year. But when I look it through, I can't really, I don't have enough data to be able to fully say yes or no on that. On previous years, it's been very experienced instructors who've been having problems. The next year, it's low experienced instructors. Then it's on current. I can't find a full-on trend, but it is higher at the start of the year. With the males, you're getting new packers. You're less current. So there is a peak at the beginning of the year, but it goes on through the year. Obviously, you'd have to do it on the rate per 1,000 jumps, because in the summer, the number of incidents goes up because we're doing a lot more jumping. So I don't know, I don't have the total number of jumps done in that period to be able to give you that information. Does that get me out of that? Good. Okay.
Besides that. Just really quickly, you mentioned packing being 92%.
Sorry, no. You mentioned packing being 92% for the malfunction rate. Do you have the split for which were packed by TIs packing for themselves and packers?
No.
Because I'd be intrigued in that
No,
as well.
I don't have. It's not
just
on
with
the
fatigue and tired and tandem
I
instructors making mistakes as well, you know.
Yeah, I don't have that information, Rob. I'm afraid. No. There's a lot of information which we don't have, and if I gave you the form which I'd want the information, you wouldn't fill it in. I'd never get it. So, and nobody would want to fill it in. Hi, Ray. Here's a microphone.
Better make it worthwhile now. So one thing that would concern me is knowing, okay, it's great to see how many people are obese, you know, X, Y, Z % of this, that, and the other, but we don't know how many percentage of the people that do tandems are obese, overweight, etc. Yep. So no, but just as in total of tandems done.
What
I meant was, so when you look at it, so if there was X, Y, Z 1,000 tandems done, of those tandems there were 50% were obese, and of those 50% obese people, yeah, there was X, Y, Z % that were injured.
Okay.
Because of course that wouldn't be reported. So when somebody books into the centre, it doesn't get reported to you or the BPA how many people that centres are taking up that are obese.
Yes, this is from Hibblestow. This is our data.
But what I mean is, you guys are very strict about what you're doing. I'm on about around the UK.
Okay.
So if you knew what was the percentage of people that skydive that are obese, then you can turn around and say, right, of those 5,000 people, we actually injured X, Y, Z, which makes it more relevant.
Okay. If we take, I don't know whether we're fatter in the north or not. It seems like it, but actually we're not.
Yeah.
Okay. If we take this is the breakdown at Hibblestow 2017. All right. This is just our drop zone. Okay. Out of that. So if we take that across the country, it was. 1 second. It's a good question. And maybe we can. Okay. I can't get back to it. Come on. Just trying to think if I can get back to it, Ray. No, it doesn't want to go back. Yes, I can start looking at that. If you can take that us as an average, then I can look at it. But I did say that. Yes. Okay. No, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, because then we could turn around and say, right, if you are above XYZ BMI, you are XYZ times more likely to get injured. Yeah, we could actually get something we can work on that comes up with an answer.
I think John might be able to help us with that a little bit.
Hey, Doc, how are you?
Noel's shown us very clearly that for his drop zone, injuries occur more commonly with the overweight people. But of course, we don't know if that applies to the rest of the country. If you'd like to know if it applies all over the country, then you would need to send that information for all of your first jump tandem students to us at the BPA. And that would mean about 50,000 pieces of information coming back to the office about the height and weight and age and gender of each of your first jump students. Someone having to process the 50,000. Of course, if you sent it on a spreadsheet, that would help. But if you could give us that information, it would be great. And we would feed this back to you and let you know nationally whether these really were risk factors. Noel and I both are convinced that they are, but we can't prove it unless you're actually prepared to send us a copy of the medical declaration or put it all on a spreadsheet so we know the height and weight and age and gender for every one of your students.
I'm retiring this year, John. That's it. I'm out. I've done a bit, but moving on from last year where people were asking, that I don't think we're taking the higher proportion of heavy people. I don't think it negates it. I think from the information, we are hurting more heavy people. That's what I think it boils down to. So we just need to be careful. So prevention, if you can report fully and properly, it helps. Like I say, then we can have a look at trends, we can find more out. I put this up every year. This is one thing, and I'm already talking to converted because you're here. The 60, 70 of you, how many of you are of you? Okay, it's all the guys who are outside who are not here. Those are the ones we need to be preaching to. You guys are already here, and I thank you for that. But you're the last person who can stop that accident happening, incident. Accidents don't happen. Stopping that incident. And you can stop it right the way up to getting in the door. Get back in. Okay, you need to check their capability for landing. You need to check your own capability for landing. You might well start in the morning, great, you can take the 16 stoner, that's fine, but the 10, 12 tandem at the end of the day, are you fit to do it? And bearing in mind, if their student's heavier, higher chance of getting hurt, higher chance of you getting hurt. If you're going to be purely selfish about it, forget about the students, look after yourselves, guys. Don't wipe yourself out. You don't jump, you don't earn, majority of people. Say no. One thing I hate as a chief instructor, and I've gone back into it, is I knew they wouldn't be able to put their legs up. That's inexcusable, guys. It shouldn't be happening. Okay, if you know it, stop it. That stops on flight line. There's more centres who are hooking their students up and hanging them before they go and jump. We're doing more checks. I've seen it at our place and trying to feed it through so it becomes part of the normal culture. That's something we just need to be looking at. So help yourself, don't get complacent. Think about the stack. You can see that the big issues, a low turn, no toggles and canopy still turning, are probably stack related. Go back to basics, information on conditions, do you know what the winds are doing, what's likely going to happen, where the upper is, where your spot's going to be. Just go back to basics, man. It's the information is normally there. And keep the stress down. Firmly believe that stress is probably the biggest causer of it. At the end of the day, if you've got the secondaries, you go on to, easy, happy days. Buy yourself a bit of time. Okay? We don't have to stand and land up. We don't have to be right in front of the family. We need to land safely. We don't need to be fully into wind. Okay? We need to, let's go back to the basics. All right. So I was thinking, I do a little bit of flying, and one of the things we get drummed into is your checklists and stuff like that. So before you take off and on your downwind, and I know it sounds really corny, but this is the kind of thing of throwing it out to people. Is the one I came up with, staple. All right, and we all kind of do these things, but we're never 100% consistent with what we do under canopy. All right. And these are actually called legs, so it's kind of like if you don't nail your landing, you're going to break your legs. I want to look at bringing it through from the CH1 guys sort of thing, so it becomes normal. So the next generation of tandem instructors have got a systematic checklist. But basically, I was just thinking of stack. Where are you in the stack? So at 2,000 feet, 1,500 feet, where are you? What's going on around you? Okay, that would cut out that previous injury, one injuries. Toggles. For CH1 guys, you're jumping on your own. Are you off your rears? Are you on the main toggle? Are you back on your toggles, flying the canopy slowly? At Hibblestone, we had 1 fatality and 3 broken backs because people went from rears to toggles trying to do a flat turn and lost that extra 6 foot, and that's what cost them. 1 is life, 1 is back. Okay? So toggles, and that, if you're thinking about it, are you on your secondaries? I'm going to ask UPT politely if they would make their secondary colours, secondary toggles, not black on the black riser, but bright fancy colours. I think it might prompt people to pick them up. Altitude, because this dictates everything else that's going to happen in the pattern. So, what's going on? Do I need to change? What's my pattern going to be? Okay, where is everybody else in the pattern? Am I going to have to change my pattern? Landing, am I going to do a slide-in or a stand-up landing? You can pretty well have that decision made by that point. You can make sure the student's got their legs up. You can make sure they've got hold of the grips. You can make sure you're in the right place. You're coming into land, the last few seconds, you don't want to be reminding them to pick their legs up. Get their legs up nice and early that you're ready to go. Or that they're able to pick their legs up. Because going back on that one, on the landing, one injury we had many years ago was the instructor forgot to pick the secondaries up because the student was uncomfortable picking their legs up. So if you'd already picked the toggles up, then you can deal with a student being uncomfortable. Okay? And then eventualities, just think about, what can go wrong now I'm on my pattern? Just because you're in the right place in the pattern, what can go wrong? We drop other aircraft, all of a sudden, we've been dropped off the wind line because they're dropping the 4-way here. Next thing, you've got 4 allegedly experienced jumpers who are on back-to-backs who all they care about is getting back to get packed to get onto the next thing. And they don't care about the great big 365 brightly coloured object that's flying around near them. Okay, so just think about your eventualities. Have that as a backup plan in your head. Are you there? Are you ready? So it's just think about, but make sure, if you don't use this, think about something you do. Make sure you're consistent. Make sure you have your own prompts. If it's your audible beeping in your ear, oh yeah, I've got to pick my secondaries up. Hey, great, you're already on the way to doing it. Stopping the accident happening to yourself. You know, so just think about it, because then you can crown your landing. You look really good. All right, so I'm going to start doing this, and cheesy, hey, but you'll remember it. Okay, and that's the point. I want people to be, because that's actually called the crown on a staple. It is. So if you don't nail it, you're going to break your legs. There you go, guys. Simple. Go away. Think about it. All right. We need to critique our own landings. Okay, if you have had a hard landing, go away. Think about it. Think about what you're doing. You know, don't think, I got dropped. It's turbulence. Have a look at why. Think about what you're doing. Be critical of yourself. Mentor, you know, guys, most of you guys here, who's got more than 1,000 tandems in the room? Quite a lot of you, okay? So you will be watching the newer guys. So you need to be, you know, it's that mentoring as well, be able to help the newer guys. You know, oh, Dave smashed in again, Dave smashed in again. Well, help Dave, okay? And make time to work together. Look at it, critiques from your own landings. We'll go in, watch the videos, watch other people's, and work together. No blame kind of culture, but look at it, see how we can improve ourselves. I was always afraid of dying, always. It was my fear that made me learn everything I could about my aeroplane and my emergency equipment, kept me flying respectful of my machine and always alert in the cockpit. That was Chuck Yeager. I quite like that. He also said, never wait for trouble. All right, so just always be ready for it, you know. Get out, get the drogue up, systems check, chill. Canopy open, see where you are, chill. Keep the stress down. Any questions? Yes. There's a mic somewhere.
You know the instructor caused landing injuries. Did any of those instructors lose their rating?
One had his rating suspended, but yes.
So I was just wondering, so obviously you said about the guy who had the Cypress off, obviously that's really bad, and then they got their rating taken off them. But if you've turned too low, not picked up the secondaries, why would you not have your rating taken off you?
You need to direct that to the STO, not to me. I look at the data, and I'm not here to hang people. Yes, you are. All I have on there is I have the comments, what happened, and there's a further line of comment that says TI suspended. I don't know what happened to them, so his instructor was suspended. The one which was the low turn, they were rebriefed. That's what it says in there.
Just seems a bit like there's like different rules for different people, but.
You need to set up with your chief instructor from
Okay,
STC.
I think to try and answer your question, Laura, you know, you've got to look at every case. You know, you've got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Everybody's human. Everybody's going to make mistakes. So the first thing that we do is we look at the chief instructor. Why do we look at the chief instructor? They are responsible for parachuting activities, okay, at that parachute training organization. So the first port of call is what is the chief instructor doing about it? So if we think the chief instructor has done a little bit of due diligence, he's looked into the stuff, he's got put things and measures in place to prevent that from happening, then we look at that and we might not need to act on it. Okay? Every situation is going to be different. Okay? So Noel's just mentioned it. I'm very keen to try and get away from that no blame culture or start instigating no blame culture. All right, we accept people make mistakes, but we've got to look at those mistakes and how that, you know, how it looks. So I think if you were going to take ratings off everybody that hurt somebody, there wouldn't be a lot of tandem instructors left.
We have to look at in a no blame culture. You have the difference. You have the omission and the violation, and it depends whether that's how they would look at it, and that's how I look at it with my guys. Was it, you know, when we look at something, if something's not gone to plan. Is it an omission? You know, they've genuinely forgot, or there's been an issue with the training. How do we correct and move on? And there's a difference between a violation where somebody's deliberately broken it, and in the no blame, that's what we need to be looking at. So, yeah, that's a good question, but yeah, it needs to go through those guys.
Yeah, no, just a quick one on that, because I'm very passionate about this. I think as an organisation, we're too lax with our tandem instructor. Let me finish. And anyone that doesn't set a drogue should be automatically grounded. End of story. Because if you imagine that person is in charge of an aeroplane and doesn't do something and crashes, all hell breaks loose. And I've been around a lot of drop zones, and some people don't take being a tandem instructor in a professional manner. And like the 2 slides before about landing toggles and everything else, I disagree that you get these guys to put brightly coloured toggles on the secondary. Because they, as a tandem instructor, you should know what you're doing. You should know where you're setting up. You should know when you're coming in. And if you're not professional, us as an organisation should take those ratings off those people.
That's your opinion. I'm not going to put my opinion out there because it's going out, but I'll discuss it with you.
But it's something that we need to discuss as an organisation and chief instructors.
Yeah.
We need to discuss it.
Yeah. I think it comes down to the initial training that we're doing, and I think there's been, I've been running tandem instructor courses for the last few years sort of thing, and it is definitely something which gets pushed through. There have been people who had their ratings taken off them each year. We have to look at it. There hasn't been a huge number over the previous years of incidents where people have had their ratings removed from them, and you know, everything is different and everybody's allowed their own opinion. I'm trying to look at what I can do to mitigate that. You know, if it's various as a visual reminder of something, if there's an audible beep, no, we shouldn't need audibles, no, we shouldn't need AADs, but they're there for a reason, because people are human, people do make mistakes. I'm not going to get into the discipline behind them. So
you have to be careful with the fact that absolutely professional tandem instructors. Sorry, you have to be careful with the fact that a professional tandem instructor.
Should know better, shouldn't I? Really, a professional tandem instructor absolutely should know exactly what he's doing and trained and briefed. However, if you take the standpoint of you're going to be whipped every time you make a mistake, a genuine mistake, that you're not going to get any reporting.
No.
Because someone's just going to go, do you know what? What's the point in flogging myself?
Like I say, that's the thing in a no-blame culture. You have a difference between what is an omission and a violation, and it's your perspective of what has happened. Okay, so let's move back to the stats. I don't want to get drawn. I'm quite happy to go and talk about it later. You can talk with Jeff about it. Okay, but that's yeah. But if we haven't got the information, we can't see if more of these problems are happening. If it's becoming more of a trend, we have to. You know, there's a balance that's got to be met.
I had one more question. We talked a lot about BMI earlier. You know, overweight students generally being more at risk. I think we all accept that. But you're also including a wrist injury in the BMI, sort of they're overweight and they were also injured. I'd be more interested to know how many of those BMI overweight individuals were lower leg injury because they couldn't lift up their legs.
I can find that out for you. But of the fractures, yeah, I can find that out for you and I can let you know.
That would just be more.
Yeah, but I don't have. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I don't spend months and months and months digging through it. I could pull out, you know, correlations and stuff like that, but I don't have the time at the moment to be able to do that. But yes, it's something that should be looked at. And that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to push that lot to do. I can only do the information as much as I can with my information. I don't even know where the sensors are. I don't even know how many jumps have been done on the tandem equipment. That's, you know, pseudo-confidential information because, you know, as a chief instructor, I could turn around and say, well, actually, we're a lot safer than that people down the road who are using that canopy. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to have it open to just get it through. And that's why I put my data up on there. I haven't put the numbers up of what we've got, but we are not jumping more heavier people, which I was surprised at. I thought we would be. All right, so that's me doing. Any questions? Any more? No? Good? Right, coffee through there. And then we're going to talk again about what we can do to look at some of these situations. Okay, guys? Thank you very much.